What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another podcast, and today, rather than having one guest like I usually do, we are actually going to be joined by the Twisted Jedi, Nivoleth, and Split Screen. How are you boys going?
Doing good, thanks, man.
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, doing very good, thank you.
That's good to hear, boys. Good to hear. So, usually I do have a list of maybe 10 to 15 questions, but today, since there are more of you guys, I have boiled it down to the 3 questions that I wanted to ask the most. So, without wasting any more time, we are going to jump straight into it. So, starting off with you, Twisted, and then I'll go through the other boys, obviously. What were your thoughts on the news of Battlefront 2 support being ended, and I guess what was the aftermath of that for you as well?
Yeah, obviously, I think like most people, for me, it was pretty devastating. You know, it was a very unexpected announcement that support was going to be ending, and you know, I felt like with the announcement of the end of Battlefield 5, we may have had a chance for more content for Battlefront 2. So I was actually a little bit excited that we could have potentially got some more developers shifting over, but unfortunately, they just decided to end both. And you know, Battlefront 2 was a huge part of all of our lives. So yeah, the announcement was pretty shocking, and I think for about, 3 or 4 days afterwards, I just kind of sat there and just was like, I don't know what to do. Just almost in shock, essentially, of the announcement. And, obviously I'm always going to make content and I'm always going to be around. But yeah, it's really hard when you find out that there's no longer going to be any new content for something you've spent 2.5 years doing. So yeah, definitely a very difficult time.
Yeah, it was like you said earlier, it was very much of a shock. Like, I don't think anyone really expected it. So I think most people kind of felt that exact same way. What about you, Nivo?
Yeah, I mean, very similar, because I was just waiting for the CT to come out, and then it comes out with the update video, and then we just it was kind of just a bombshell, I'd say. I think we all knew it was coming in a sense, but I personally, like Twisted said, I was personally thinking we could have the potential for more content since Battlefield 5 was no longer getting any attention because it was done. I was like, maybe Battlefront will be continuing on with the content, and then they dropped that on us, and I think it was just I was more upset about it than I actually expected to be, because I knew it was gonna happen. But when it did happen, I was like, damn. Like, I just sat there because I was on stream, and everybody was asking me to play, and I just couldn't. Like, I was just sitting there in my chair, like, just reading over the CT again, and like watched the video again, and I just, for the next couple of days, it was just misery. I was like, why am I so upset about it? And then you just keep thinking about all the different memories and all the time and effort and everything, that energy that we've invested in the game. And yeah, man, it was rough.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like how you wouldn't think like a video game would be that much of an effect when it, all it is they're not doing updates, and you wouldn't think that would matter. But like the fact that we were also like borderline depressed is kind of goes to show the strength of the game and the community and stuff like that. What about you, Mark? What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think when I first heard it, I was obviously shocked, but kind of more confused because it wasn't made particularly obvious in the CT or the update video, so I was mainly just confused. And then you just see all the developers saying, oh, thank you, and it's, oh, this is the end. It's like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was obviously really saddening, and obviously, yeah, I was just in shock, and it's just like, for the next few days, I was genuinely I felt pretty miserable, I'll be quite honest. Like, the fact that, it's been over 3 years now since the official reveal, and, like I mentioned before this, I was sat in my brother's room constantly going on about what content we could have, the game launched, and obviously then started doing the whole YouTube scene and all that stuff, and it's just, yeah, you put in so much time and effort, and to see it just, that almost chapter of your life close, it was quite sad.
That point you made at the start was a very good point about, like, not... they didn't make it very clear, I didn't think. Like, did you guys, when it happened, did you guys know for certain that it was done? Because for me personally, I was, like, I pretty much knew, but I was really confused whether it was actually that or if I'd read it wrong or something.
I didn't know until I saw the developers' response and what everything they were saying on Twitter. I was like, wait, what did they? Because I heard it in the community update, and I was like, wait, what did they just say? And then everybody's like freaking out in the chat, like, oh my god, it's over. And we check Twitter, and Dennis is like, okay, thank you, bye. And it's like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt. It was just very confusing, because I mean they were kind of going on about how like, oh, we've completed it, we realised our vision with Battlefront 2. So when he said that, I was like, huh, okay, so they know what they're going to do for the future. Like, is that kind of what they're talking about there? It's like they, are they going to move on to that, or are they going to kind of stop Battlefront 2 and be like, right, okay, well, we know what we want to do with the franchise, let's go and actually make this into Battlefront 3 and make it into something so much bigger. But obviously right now there's no plans whatsoever for that, so it's just a bit, the fact that we're like left in the dark is also just what's most unfortunate, really.
Yeah, for sure. It was just such a I don't know, they didn't communicate it as well as they probably could have. Not to say that, like, it's not an easy thing to do. I don't think they really, no matter how they did it, it would have been pretty hard to do, but I just think they could have made it a bit more, concrete that it was done. Because for a lot of people would, even like the days after, they were like, what? I didn't get that from the CT. I just saw we were getting all the content and stuff, and I was like, nah, man, it's the support is ended. And they were like, oh shit, I didn't even know that. So I think they could have handled that a little bit better, but like I said, I think either way it was going to be pretty hard to do anyway.
Yeah, and I just remembered the point I was going to make. So basically, I was so adamant that we were going to keep on getting content. I actually, there was a period of time of about 2 weeks where everyone was making videos on the fact that support was likely going to end, and I was like, people are just making something out of nothing, basically. It's like, yeah, okay, so what, a few people leave, that's what happens, people come and go. Communication was pretty poor as well, but that's probably because of the situation we were all in right now. So I was like, no, you know what, like, it's going to be fine. And then Battlefield 5, I said, okay, yeah, that's it. July's going to be our last update. So I thought, okay, well, Battlefield 5 just said that. I wasn't really concerned whether that was going to happen the same with Battlefront 2. Like Twisted said, I almost kind of felt like that would even give Battlefront 2 an even bigger opportunity. But then, I felt like the fact that it was so well communicated with Battlefield 5 that it's going to be the end, in comparison anyway, because I think there was still a bit of confusion slightly with that as well. I feel like they could have probably communicated a little bit better just on that part, whether it was in the CT or like a more official announcement.
Yeah, that was, I was in the same boat where it was like, I was actually thinking, okay, Battlefield's done, so that's like probably a good thing for Battlefront. And I actually had made a video on that, like, what's, Battlefield 5 is over, what does that mean for Battlefront 2? And then 3 days later we get the news that it's over. So it was it was just weird timing, and like you said, it was weird that they handled it so well. They literally just straight up said, this is going to be the last update in July or June or whatever it is. And yeah, it was so clear. And then for the Battlefront team, it was just very up in the air, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we didn't even know as well, like the fact that it was communicated the night before the update, this was the last update, and then it's done, was just completely bizarre. Because I feel like with an announcement like this, you'd probably want to say something before, really, instead of just being like, oh, hey, here's your update, yeah, we're done now, bye. And it's just, yeah, I didn't really I think obviously I was really shocked and sad, but I also felt a little bit annoyed because of the lack of communication with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that same boat. Now moving on to the second question, and this is probably a very hard one to answer, I guess. Starting off with you, Nivo, what was your favourite personal memory of Battlefront 2's lifespan and why?
Oh, well, I've given a little bit of thought to this one, and I think I'm gonna have to briefly mention two, and because I can't really choose between the two. Then the first one is obviously the launch of the game. I think that the hype that was built up leading up to the launch, I honestly can't think of a time where I've been more excited for a game release. We played the beta for there's 2 maps in the beta, and I probably played it for 40 hours, for 2 maps for 40 hours. I mean, that's how obsessed I was, and I was so excited, and it dropped, and I was just, all the hate around the game, it didn't matter to me. I was loving it. I was having a great time. But then outside of the launch, I'd say definitely the release of Count Dooku is probably my favorite memory, because I think I had only been streaming for 2 months at that point. I was somewhere around 600 subscribers. and 600, 700 subscribers. And I started that stream leading up to the Dooku release, completely unaware of what was about to happen. And, you know, I usually had like, 8, 9, 10 people watching max. And then next thing you know, there's 200 people in my chat, and I didn't know what was going on. And I'd say, you know, from that moment, I became truly obsessed with streaming. We gained like 300 subscribers that night, got over the 1,000 subscriber limit, and I've just been hooked ever since. And I think like that moment really made me love the game even more, because now it wasn't just me playing it. It was like there was a whole nother layer of it in terms of like the streaming and having, you know, building a community and stuff. So I'd say that's probably takes the cake for my personal favorite memory from Battlefront 2.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was going to be your answer. I just remember that hype around that whole stream was insane. I remember like just being on like Twitter and in my Discord and stuff, like all day people were just like, holy shit, everyone's streams are popping off, like everyone's just going nuts. So yeah, that even for me, like that, I didn't even stream the update, and that was still for me probably one of the biggest memories, just because of how much hype there was around that. What about you, Mark? What was your, or you can, you know, probably multiple, because yeah, it is kind of hard to choose one.
In more recent memory, I'd definitely say this, like for me personally, it's Scarif stream. Despite it being the end and obviously being really sad, it was a really good moment for me because you know, I'd broken my highest record of viewers at any one time. You know, I got up to 96, and before that it was like 46, which was actually like a couple days before. But you know, so I like, you know, that stream absolutely smashed it. You know, everyone was kind of, you know, coming in. They obviously really hyped for Scarif, and original trilogy Supremacy was just a ton of fun as well. So for me, that's actually what I wanted more out of Supremacy, really. I really enjoyed not having the capital ship phase, so it was nice to be able to actually sit there and enjoy another pretty large scale game mode other than Galactic Assault. But from just the reveal trailer all the way to launch, I was just so hyped. I think EA Play is a really great memory of mine actually as well, because I was sat there at home watching Styles HQ. I like Styles HQ for me in terms of YouTube and stuff like that have actually been a really like big inspiration, actually what got me started really, as well as Battlefront 2, the game obviously coming out. So they had a stream of 2.5 hours where they were sat there playing the pre-alpha and everything like that, just literally on Naboo Galactic Assault, and I literally watched that I've watched that whole stream 3 times over within a space of probably a month or so, just because of how hyped I was. I just kept watching it. You know, it was the same map, the same gameplay, but just seeing the battle droids and the clones in the way they looked, it was just absolutely incredible. And then the Starfighter Assault trailer came out in August at Gamescom. I was on holiday in Cyprus at the time with my family, and that trailer came out. We were at a I think it came out when we were actually eating a meal at a restaurant, and then, you know, we were watching it. When we got back to the villa we were staying at, me and my brother watched it over and over again. I remember everyone going like, "Oh my god, is that Ahsoka's?" You know, it was because it was a female voice. I think basically saying like, "Oh, flank hard incoming" or something like that. And it sounded like Ahsoka, so everyone was getting really hyped about that. But that Starfighter Assault trailer was awesome, and that's actually kind of what took me over the edge to then actually start creating content, because I was so excited for the game. Always coming up with, you know, ideas for it, you know, what heroes we could see. We obviously knew about the reinforcement system, so seeing what we could have there, skins, weapons, all that stuff. I was just sat there day in, day out, you know, in my brother's room, just talking to him about it, and it was just, I think, yeah, pre-launch for me was awesome. I was just so hyped, and then kind of when the game came out, it was just a lot of times have been fairly quiet for me, but the Scarif stream and some other streams with updates have just been awesome as well, really, I think.
Yeah, I reckon most of the updates are always like, I think most people's answers are always going to be something like that, because the days in between are kind of just, you know, whatever, but always, every single update there's just always so much hype, so that's, yeah, definitely going to be a recurring answer. What about you, Twisted? What was your favourite personal memory?
Yeah, like the other guy said, I've obviously got a couple of moments that were, you know, really big highlights for me, and, you know, one that springs to mind immediately is being blessed with the opportunity to be a part of the Game Changer program for Battlefront 2, and being flown out to Sweden to DICE HQ and actually getting to test the progression system early and, you know, test out Bespin for the first time and Hero Starfighter and Hero Showdown and, you know, a lot of the stuff that they were planning on bringing to the game. Ewok Hunt was, you know, a first test at that event. So, you know, I got to meet a lot of people like, you know, Star Wars HQ and Battlefront updates and Dash Star and a lot of the big names that are in the community. So for me, being able to do that, and it's actually funny, it's 2 years today, on the day we're recording this, since I was flying to Sweden and I arrived at DICE HQ. So, you know, it's a bit of an emotional memory for me and definitely one of the biggest highlights in terms of events for the lifespan of Battlefront 2, but also, you know, I've had some incredible streams. You know, the boys mentioned the Scarif stream. I had like 700 people in my stream that night, but it still doesn't compare to the Count Dooku stream when, you know, my channel, you know, I just started a stream from a friend's house and like Mark said, you know, you're used to having 30 to 40 people in your chat maximum. And, you know, before I'd even transitioned off my starting soon screen into my gameplay screen, I had 300 people in my chat. And then there was 500 like 30 seconds later. And, you know, then it was 1,000 and all the way up to 2,500. And I couldn't see a single message in the chat because it was moving that quickly. And, you know, I went from, I think I was at like 9k subs to 11k subs in the span of 2 hours. You know, it went absolutely insane. And, you know, for me, I was just completely shocked because, you know, like we were talking about before the podcast started, I don't think anyone really expected that update to be that big, you know. And you made a good point, Sammy, of, you know, it's because there was no images of Dooku, there was no information around Dooku, like nobody really knew what was going on with him. So I think it was more a question of I need to see what he's like. I need to, you know, it had curiosity with the community, and that just kind of blew up everyone's streams on that night. So yeah, that was definitely a huge highlight as well. But I think number one would always have to be the trip out to DICE HQ.
Yeah, man, that's like not only just a such a good memory of Battlefront for you, but that's probably like a lifelong, like that's probably one of the coolest shit you've ever done. Like that's a dream for so many people. So
yeah, well, like, you know, like people would honestly dream to get to do that, you know, sit down at a table and have lunch with Ben Walk and Dennis and Guillaume and pick their brain about, you know, what are your thoughts behind, like, why are you designing a hero this way? What's your idea for that? Or, you know, I really liked, we tested Hero Showdown and I really liked the idea of it, and I was like, oh, what made you guys come up with that when you already had heroes versus villains? And, you know, just being able to sit down with them and actually pick their brain was something I never thought I would get to do, and it just gave me a whole new respect for the developers themselves and how much work they put into the game and how passionate they are about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably such a like a eye-opening experience to. It's the gaming industry is something that, like, I think we all think we know a bit about it, but like we probably really don't, because it's kind of oddly kept behind closed doors for the most part. So yeah, it must be such a great experience to be able to go and actually see inside and, you know, see how they do it all.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we see it on a screen, you know, we just play it. We play the final product, we play the finished thing. Like, they spend hours and hours every single day for months on end, like working on one little thing. Like, you think it takes multiple months to develop one map, you know, and the amount of work that they've put into that to be able to go behind the scenes and actually look at them working on it and see the behind the scenes, you know, shots of them developing a single rock on Geonosis. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just gives you a whole new appreciation for it, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In Battlefront 2015, so, I mean, I'm sure you guys have all heard of photogrammetry, but with a lot of, like, the rocks and the trees and stuff like that, obviously it's all photogrammetry. So for that, they genuinely have to, like, take maybe 200 to 300 photos of one rock at all these different angles, and then they'll go back to their studio and then stitch it all together using a piece of software, and they'll have to do that for so many different assets. And like you were saying, Twisted, like the whole Game Changer, like getting to go on that trip there as well, like that's always been a dream of mine as well. Like, as a student actually studying like game development, game art, stuff like that, for me personally, that would just be an incredible like insight into the industry as well, into something that, you know, hopefully someday I'll actually get to be a part of, but then also as like a, from a Battlefront or just a Star Wars gaming point of view as well. It's just and as a Star Wars fan, it would be amazing to just kind of see what their thoughts are and stuff like that. It'd just be an absolutely incredible experience.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely a couple of jealous boys in here myself.
Yes, definitely.
Now, moving on to the last question. I'll start with you, Mark. What are your hopes, and this is kind of another loaded question, but what are your hopes for both the future of the Battlefront franchise as well as just Star Wars gaming in general?
Well, in terms of the Battlefront franchise, I'd love to see a Battlefront 3. I feel like, obviously the whole Battlefront 3 thing's a bit cursed, really. I think being realistic with all of DICE working on Battlefield 6 at the moment, I kind of hope that, in a way, EA, after their license expires, actually gets to keep, whether it gets renewed or the license goes to more publishers, but EA still get to make Star Wars games. That's kind of my main hope anyway, just so we can see more games. But I hope that DICE can actually keep on, after Battlefield 6, then maybe have Battlefield 6 as one of those things that's, continually being updated. But then start to work on a Battlefront 3 that actually is, massive in scale. I mean, with next-gen consoles coming out now, the possibilities are going to be endless, and with the way technology evolves, it's going to be... They could make a Battlefront 3 into some absolutely insane experience in, like, such large scale, diving into all these different... heroes, reinforcements, skins, weapons. There's so much potential left that Battlefront 2 could have that they could go and make into a Battlefront 3. Obviously, they just need time. I don't care if, I'm not too worried about a whole deadline or, get this done in 2-3 years. I just want them to take their time with something and make something that actually at launch is this absolutely insane experience. And then in terms of Star Wars gaming, I'd like to see... In general, I just like to see more games. They take time. Some things can take 2-3 years, or even longer, depending on the overall scale. I'd love to see like a massive open world, almost GTA style game. With sort of like bounty hunters, smugglers, and just underworld sort of stuff would be amazing. Basically just almost just Star Wars GTA really would be absolutely amazing. But then, I just want to see more games. I think if more publishers got a license, then I think the potential and the creativity would be fantastic. And competition's not a bad thing either. So if it was just, for example, EA is making Star Wars games and Ubisoft are making Star Wars games, obviously both of them are going to want to make amazing Star Wars games, but they can have almost that friendly competition between the two as well, which I think could be quite healthy as well.
Yeah, I honestly think that is the best way to go about it, because, like you said, they need competition with Battlefront 2. There's no other game that we can all, go and play. There's countless others, but no Star Wars games that we can all say, Battlefront 2 is having a bit of a rough patch, we'll go play this other one. So having, whether it's 2 or if there's like 5 games, just having that option there, that makes each company kind of know that they have to nail it, because if they don't, people won't pay for their game, and then they're going to suffer because of that. So I think it just forces people to, put a bit more time and care into their games, and hopefully that's not only going to be better for them because they're going to make more money if the games are better, but it's better for us because we get better quality games as well. What about you, Twisted? What are your hopes for the future of the Battlefront franchise and Star Wars in general?
Yeah, well, obviously, like Mark said, it's the same for me. Like, I would love to see a Battlefront 3. I think we all would, not just for content, but for pure enjoyment. One of the things, the guys were touching on before was the excitement around the release of Battlefront 2 and the announcements and all the early trailers. And, that was such a hype time for Star Wars fans. I remember when they started announcing each individual character's abilities and giving them their own little trailer. That's kind of what blew up my channel in the first place. Was I did a Kylo Ren ability speculation video, and I was actually spot on with with all 3 abilities, and I think I had like 200 subs or something, and it got like 5k views. So it was the first sort of time for me where I realized that the hype around a game pre-launch can be something huge. And I think if there was to be a Battlefront 3, I would love them to take a long time developing it, really flesh it out, make sure, you know, it has all those things that we didn't quite get at the end of Battlefront 2. You know, if we could launch, you imagine like a Battlefront 3 launch with Ahsoka and Ventress, you know, or with Coruscant as a playable map, or, you know, multiple game modes, or even if it's not Battlefront 3, because like you said, you know, the Battlefront name has almost been cursed in a way. If they gave us, you know, some other, you know, Star Wars name that's a multiplayer game, you know, we've been playing obviously a lot of Call of Duty lately. I would love to see, you know, a battle royale style Star Wars game, you know, in a underworld like 1313 level, you know, underneath Coruscant style battle royale game where you run around as bounty hunters or something, grabbing different weapons and hunting each other down, or something like that. Or like a search and destroy game mode where it's, you know, Cad Bane's planted a bunch of bombs around, and, you know, you've got to find the bombs and disarm them as like an elite task force of clones or something. Like, you never know, like there's so much options.
There's literally endless possibilities. That's the thing that I think frustrates a lot of people, is like, yeah, there's just endless amount of things they could do, and we kind of just don't really, you know, we've seen 3 games since 2013, so.
And well, that's it. Like I mentioned 1313, like I mentioned it as a possible level design or something, but at the same time, you know, we lost that game, we lost the Darth Maul game, there's so many other games in between, you know, the Disney takeover and everything else. Star Wars fans just want games, you know, like it would probably be different, you know, if we were getting a Star Wars game every 6 months or every year or whatever, but, you know, with the way development is now, you need to take 3 years to develop a game, especially a multiplayer game. And, you know, it's obviously with next gen something that I would love to see, but whether or not we get that, you know, I don't know. And whether or not it's under the Battlefront franchise, it's hard to say at this point. But if there's not something in the Battlefront franchise, I would love to see something, you know, to replace it in the multiplayer scene.
Well, in terms of Battlefront, you know, I think everybody, well, the excuse that DICE is kind of making in terms of Battlefront is, you know, well, we're working on Battlefield 6. You know, they haven't come out and said that obviously explicitly, but, you know, everybody can pretty much just guess that they're focusing on the Battlefield franchise going forward now. And I think, you know, with that being the case, EA literally has another like company and development company within them that could easily take the mantle from DICE, and I think that's Respawn. I think Respawn could easily handle another taking over the Battlefront franchise. Maybe they co-develop it. You know, it's like you don't have to dedicate a full team from one, you know, developer. You can go half the team is DICE, half the team is Respawn. And they could co-create a Battlefront game, but, you know, we don't have any news, obviously, and, you know, the speculation is that there's not going to be a Battlefront 3. So, you know, I don't even know what to think about the future. We've talked about this before. I think it's a little unfair that, like, Battlefield fans know that their franchise is going to continue on, and Battlefront fans are just like, you know, what's going to happen? Because when they canceled Battlefield 5, at least they knew, well, we're getting another one in, you know, 6 months to a year. And then we're sitting here like, okay, you know, what's going to happen to this franchise that we've dedicated the last 5 years to? But then in terms of just Star Wars gaming in general, I think, you know, there's so much potential in the video game industry for Star Wars games. I say Star Wars has more potential than any other franchise on the planet when it comes to video games, and that's why, you know, some say that they want the exclusive rights to get renewed to EA, and I don't necessarily think that that's a good idea. I think they should still be allowed to make games, because Fallen Order was a great game. They're making that a series now, so it's like, I think they should definitely still get to make games, but giving one company exclusive rights is just, you're really hindering, you know, your potential. So I think, you know, my dream game is a Skyrim style open world Star Wars game. You know, you can be a Jedi, you can be a bounty hunter, you can be, in the army. You could do anything you want. There's all these quest lines. It's open world. Get your ship and crew. And I think that needs to be made. And I don't care who makes it. I just want it to be made. So I think in terms of Star Wars games in general, I don't want, I don't want there to be any exclusive rights to anybody, because I just think that really stops the potential. Like Mark said, you could have Ubisoft working on an open world Star Wars game, and you could have, DICE and Respawn co-creating another Battlefront game, and take as long as you need for this stuff. And then like Twisted said, we just want games, man. That's it. We just want Star Wars gaming experiences. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like you said with the Respawn thing, that's like, I don't know how they didn't think of that, because you think about Call of Duty, for example. Even back in the day, they had the Infinity Ward team, the Treyarch team, and I think there was the Sledgehammer team, pretty much alternating every 3 years between Call of Duty. So why don't they bring multiple? You bring DICE, bring Respawn, and whatever. They've got Criterion and Motive and all those companies under EA for now. Anyway, I do agree that in the future it shouldn't be exclusive, but like for right now, they honestly should have just brought all of them together and it's somehow made it so that it's not one single franchise working on it, or done it like sort of alternating, so that a team, Battlefront 2015 comes out, that's made by DICE, and then 2017 could have been made by Respawn or whatever. So I agree with that. I think that's such a waste of potential, especially with like Respawn, in my opinion, is one of the best development companies in the whole world. They've got literally not a single game I can think of that has been a failure. Like they're all, the Titanfall series, Apex, Fallen Order, they're all so good. So how they haven't been, I mean, unless they have, but how they haven't been contacted about that is like so frustrating to me, to just know that there's a potential that they make very good shooters, and that they're just kind of being wasted, I guess.
Well, and they've shown they can handle the shooter aspect of it with, Titanfall and Apex, and then they've shown that they can handle the story-making aspect of it with Fallen Order and the lightsaber combat. It's like, if you combine all that together, you could have yourself a really good Battlefront game.
Yeah, and like I remember watching the like behind the scenes when they made Fallen Order, and like those dudes love Star Wars. They were saying like, holy shit, we landed a Star Wars game. Like they were so happy. So don't tell me that if EA reached out and was like, alright, Respawn, we want you guys to make the next Battlefront or the next multiplayer game, there's 0% chance that they would not jump at that and just make some awesome game. So yeah, it's obviously it's easier said than done. It's not that simple, but yeah, it's definitely frustrating to know that that's like a possibility that we may never see. Now, as for the last part of that question about just Star Wars in general, what do you guys think about the next couple of games that are on the way? We've obviously got Lego Star Wars. We've also got that Project Maverick that they're talking about, which seems to be legit. It was on the PlayStation Store, so I was kind of sus on it, but it seems to be pretty legit. And then they're also, we always hear about other stuff that they're always talking about, the Fallen Order sequel and stuff like that. What do you guys think about, those type of games? Do you think we will see a Fallen Order sequel? Because I think it's been confirmed now, hasn't it? They've actually said that it's like the start of a new franchise or something, didn't they?
Yeah. And I think Andrew Wilson said in the earnings call that that Fallen Order was like the first in a new franchise. So yeah, we'll 100% get more in the future, which I'm looking forward to, because the story ended off so perfectly and sets up amazing for a sequel. So if we didn't get one, I'd feel really let down by that.
Yeah, I think it's it'd be pretty dumb for them to not, because it did so well, and the story was. I mean, we need to know the story of Cal. We need to know what happens to him, because obviously he doesn't show up in any other canon, so he must either die or go his own separate way or something. And I think you can't introduce a character that so many people loved and then just be like, yeah, we don't know what happens to him. So yeah, I'm definitely very, very keen for Fallen Order, and definitely very keen for Lego Star Wars as well. What are you guys hopes for that? Like, obviously they're saying it's going to be a whole new engine and stuff. What do you think the main differences will be between the old ones and the new one coming out?
honestly. Everything. I think it's all going to be completely different. I mean, I'm pretty sure we already know like the camera's going to be slightly different, and the way you, I think the way you move the camera, it's not like it will just stick to your character and then you move around. But I think almost like with almost like Fallen Order, you move the camera around yourself and stuff like that. Like just gameplay wise as well, that's going to be different. I think like they've actually got a bit more in depth with the guns, the sabers, and all that stuff. It's just going to be a lot of fun, and we know that it's going to be such large scale as well because they're like basically like are fully explorable. With I think there's like 20 planets, so Tatooine's going to be massive. For example, have like Mos Eisley, the Dune Sea, Mos Espa, all these places that you can just go and explore. One thing I am really hoping for though is like massive tons of side quests. I think with a Lego game, side quests are just so much fun. I loved it in the Lego Lord of the Rings game. Side quests in like a massive open world was so much fun, and the story potential for it is vast as well. I was talking to my brother about it. Like you could have a certain skin for like an example was like, let's say you're on Bespin, and you don't really see Leia in her Bespin dress that much in the film at all, and it's not something you'd actually go and play as. So I've kind of thought, well, maybe you go up to Leia and then she has a mission for you. Maybe you need to go around Bespin and get like 3 Tibanna gas cartridges that the Alliance can use for their weapons. You go and get those like 3 cartridges, take it back to Leia. You get 50,000 studs as a reward plus that Leia in a dress skin or something. I think it would be so much fun. There's loads of story potential for it, loads of different gameplay potential and stuff like that. Really, it's just going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I'm definitely very, very keen for it, and it's actually not too far away now, and I think the end of October. So yeah, definitely very keen for that. Well, that is going to be it for this one, guys. I wanted to keep this one a little bit shorter than the normal one. They're usually about an hour long, so I thought I'd do it a bit more of a chat like this and a bit more of a reflection, because yeah, there's a lot on everyone's minds, I think. So it was good to have you guys on. For anyone who's not subbed to these 3 legends, I will leave their links down below, so make sure to head to the description and check out their channels. But yeah, thank you guys very much for coming on, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.